Oh, hey there, John. How you doing?
Drew, it is good to see you, my friend. Great to be back in the lab. It's going to hit you right in the face today. What's
Right
going on, brother?
between the eyes. Not much. We're going to do a few things today. We're going to do a mock draft simulator because things are a lot different now for the
Oh,
Texans
yeah.
after free agency. So things have been jiggled. We're going to talk a little bit before that about the mock draft roundup that just came out.
Oh, yeah.
But we got to start with Sting. And I know you and Mark have probably touched on this. And probably I know you've touched on and talked a lot about the Sting thing, but I had a few things I just wanted to add.
Okay.
We saw last year he had 7 interceptions in the regular season and postseason combined. The final 4 interceptions of those 7 all came in the fourth quarter of wins. Every interception this season came in a Texans win. Houston went 5-0 when Derek Stingley intercepted a pass.
Yeah.
In his 3 years as a Texan, this team is 8-2 in games in which Derek Stingley intercepts a pass. So good things happen if you intercept a pass, there's a better chance you're going to win a game, but
Yeah.
it's been a great chance for the Texans to win a game when Derek Stingley intercepts a pass. And I got to think it still goes back. I believe at its core, the Texans took Derek Stingley 3rd overall, despite him not playing as much as he could have or should have injury-wise at LSU. I still think it all comes back to when scouts were allowed to attend practices at LSU in 2019,
Oh, yeah.
and they saw these future Pro Football Hall of Famers in Justin Jefferson, in Jamar Chase,
Yep.
in Joe Burrow, going to work, and they saw this alien, Derek Stingley Jr., holding his own as a true freshman and doing a fantastic job. I still think, and it hasn't really been talked about at length in any press conference by anybody, but I gotta believe, because I saw a tweet with some practice video from that year, and Stingley just, basically mirroring, I don't know if it was Chase or Jefferson, but I gotta believe over and over and over again, those guys seeing it and just being like, and then they're there to watch this the older kids, not the freshmen. But I gotta believe that just leaped out, made a solid impression on everyone's brains who was at those practices or saw that practice footage, and they said, "Look, this is a guy you need to invest in. This is a guy to take." And I bet you a lot of other teams would have gladly gone after Derek Stingley Jr.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think the ceiling to me was higher for Sting than it was for anybody else in that draft. And obviously we know that draft was Sting and Sauce.
And Sauce Gardner's awesome. He's a really
I also
good,
love
really
Trent
good
McDuffie in that
yeah.
draft. I was a big fan of his.
Another awesome player.
I mean, the corners, here are the corners that came out of that draft. Stingley, Sauce, Trent McDuffie, Tariq Woolen, even Zion McCollum, who has become a starter with Sam Houston State. Even he was in that mix. I think he was a 4th-round pick, but tremendous athlete. I heard John Middlecoff's friend of ours, guy who was a scout for the Eagles. He made a comment about, and it made it sound so simple. And yet, I think in hindsight, it sounds so simple. At the time, probably not. But I didn't love Sauce because I felt like Sauce was so grabby and handsy, and that was the only way he could cover people. Whereas when you watch Sting at his best, which is basically 2019, he mirrored those guys without having to grab and clutch and hold. He could transition with them in and out of breaks. He didn't have to rely on, stick him on his gloves to just go grab every guy. And a lot of college corners know what they can get away with, and they get away with it.
Right.
Sting felt like, nah, I'm going to play basketball with this guy. And the upside of it was that much more. And so that's what Middlecoff was saying, was that you bet on traits to go through the ceiling, and especially at pick number 3. And I know in hindsight, it looks like, well, yeah, you bet on Sting's traits. If he could be healthy, and he was finally in the middle of 2023 and beyond, he's been that guy. And the ceiling to me was always higher for Sting because he was a guy that had those natural cover skills. He didn't have to go out there and make it a Mike Tyson fight to cover somebody like I thought Sauce did. And so that's why I was always higher on Sting. But I think the injuries, that happened here, I think that It even upset my confidence. Like, God dang it, man. Like, are we going to see the real Sting at any point? But I go back and I look at my report on him, and I just think he's such an incredible. This was the last part of my report. The concerns are valid. The assets / elite traits are too. All that leaves me in a quandary. In the end, I trust what I saw as a true freshman, and I trust those elite traits as well. So he'll remain a top 7 player, in my opinion. He was number 1 going into the 2021 season for me. Number 1 player on my board.
It's remarkable.
And then he got hurt, and I was like, I don't know that I can keep it number 1. But to me, the skills, if I rely on what I saw in 2019, when he's covering guys like Jamar Chase in practice, and you saw those, and you saw what he was doing as a true freshman. And the funniest part about that, Drew, is in 2019, we were struggling covering people. And I walked in here one day, and I was just like, damn, Mark, I wish we could draft that kid from LSU. And he goes, Stingley? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, what year is he? And I said, he's a true freshman. And we just kind of laughed. Like, we got to wait for him. And then we're thinking, we're never going to have a chance to draft him. That dude's a top 5 at a minimum. And we did, through our own screw-ups, find a way to end up drafting him. But he's everything you want in a corner. I'm so happy for him. I got a piece up at HoustonTexans.com. People want to check that out. So I appreciate them getting that up there. So, yeah, I'm very, very pleased Derek Stingley Jr. is a Texan.
Yep.
Very pleased.
Another long-term, or not long, but another guy who's great, locked up, and you don't have to worry about him or any of the stuff that happens there.
That's right.
So with that in mind, and with a lot of the moves, free agency-wise in mind, trade-wise in mind, Nick Caserio has been active yet again. The mock draft roundup came out yesterday.
Ooh, how did it change?
Changed quite a bit. So the first 3, we've done 4 now, and the first 3, Tyler Booker, the offensive lineman, the guard from Alabama, he was the favorite in 2, and then he was tied to be the number 1 with the Texans in the 3rd, the middle one. But he got a lot of votes siphoned off that went to Josh Simmons, the left tackle who's got a knee injury.
Yep.
Left tackle from Ohio State. He was mocked in 11 mock drafts out of 56. Now, not just every mock draft makes it into the mock draft roundup. You kind of have to have sort of a reputation or a history of doing this, because everybody's got a mock. If I did a mock draft right now, I probably wouldn't put it in. You do a mock draft.
Yeah.
Your mock draft gets in. Mine, not so much. So anyways, 56 of the more notable ones from around the web, compiled them. Simmons was on 11. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver, also from Ohio State, he was on 11 as well.
Okay.
And then you had Booker, you had Kelvin Banks, the offensive tackle from Texas, made it in. And it really clumped up. It had gone, like, here's 6 doing this guy, 7 or 5 choosing this guy, and then there were about 9 one-offs. There's only like 2 or 3 one-offs now. I mean, it's really bunched up. Out of 56, you would have thought there'd be more one-offs, but it's predominantly offense. I think 51 of those 56 mockers had the Texans choosing an offensive lineman or a receiver, and then it's predominantly offensive linemen. Interesting. Josh Simmons is somebody you and I have talked about offline, and I've texted, is it just the knee? And I don't want to make light of a knee injury, but he seems like he was one of the best tackles, if not the best tackle, entering the season, and then he gets the bad patellar tendon injury.
Yep.
And you had some thoughts about that.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in 23. He had transferred from San Diego State. And Ohio State had kind of reconstructed its line after CJ had gone, just because they had a lot of graduations and guys going to the NFL. So they had to reconstruct it in 2023. And I was watching Ohio State, and my eyes kept going over there. I'm like, that dude moves really well. Like, who is this? And so went back and kind of saw his bio, like, oh, okay, transferred to Ohio State. Okay, I get that. And so I really had kind of noticed him about halfway through 2023, just kind of stumbling on watching Ohio State. And I thought, man, okay, this guy's pretty good, but nobody's mentioning anything about him. He's draft eligible. Like, why are people not saying anything about him? I thought it was kind of odd. And then he decided to go back, and I think it was a good move for him to go back. And then he gets hurt in the Oregon game and was really having a good year. I mean, people were now finally kind of catching up, like, oh, hey, I told you about this guy from Ohio State. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to tell me. I know. He's athletic. He moves well. He's very agile. I mean, he's great feet, long, everything you really want, a tackle. listening to Sean and Seth on Sports Radio 610, they had mentioned Todd McShay had some not so glowing things to say about Josh, that there were some things that he needed to improve upon, especially in the maturity category and growing up a little bit. I'm like, yeah, but at the age of 21, who doesn't? We all.
I was an idiot until I was 38.
We all are. So the question becomes
41.
Yeah.
40. Sorry,
the question becomes, does that take away from his overall swarminess for us? That's going to end up being a question. But I just know the player on the field, it's a guy that, if healthy, and that's going to be a big thing, is he 100% healthy?
Yeah.
Apparently, he's going to work out for his pro day, and I think that's going to be really important to see how he moves and how he's, kind of recovering from the injury. But I find it ironic that the guy that ends up replacing him, it didn't happen at first. It was left guard Donovan Jackson, moved out to left tackle.
That's a guy who's named on a lot of mock drafts as well,
right.
In the first round, no less.
And as I watched him I've seen him plenty at guard, but I watched him at tackle and I thought, dang, he looks really good at tackle. It's just so funny how it kind of, when you see a guy's position or you see a guy play a spot for a long time, you think, okay, that's the only thing he could do. But you got to forecast a little bit. But it was really, he's a guard. I like him as a guard. But then you see him at tackle, and you're like, I like Donovan Jackson at tackle. So I don't know if left tackle or maybe right tackle. I don't know. But the fact that he can play both, he's Houstonian. I love that. He went to Episcopal in Bel Air. So I would love to have him. Obviously, protected C.J. Stroud for a year before C.J. moved on to the NFL. So I think there's a lot of really good stuff there. And I think at that point, I know there's been a lot of panic. It's March, whatever. We're not even near the last few days of March. We're not going to panic. We got to give this team opportunities. Now, a few years ago, when this team did not really have the confidence of the fans, okay, I could see the panic kind of setting in. But this organization, from time Nick stepped in with D'Amico, like, they've done good things. They've done right things. They've done right by the Texans and so doing right by the fans. They'll get this thing right. Yeah. It may not be all fixed in 1 year, but there are a lot of people that wanted that offensive line changed. They wanted it, people gone. They wanted
change, man.
It's definitely changed. Now
it's different. Now
the demo's done. Now it's like building it back up. And now the windows have got to go in the right place. The doors got to go in the right spot. You got to get the right drywall. You got to get the right paint, molding. All of that's now got to take place and be right for this organization to take another step.
You're right. There's still time. So with that in mind, let's do a mock draft simulator.
Let's do it. Let's go.
In a while.
I've been waiting for this, man. I've been waiting for this.
For those of you who don't know, I'm going to screen share in just a moment, but essentially there's many websites that do this, but we go with this one, Pro Football Network. It's the mock draft simulator they have. We'll do all 7 rounds. Trades get thrown at you. We could initiate trades, but we don't usually do the initiation of trades because a lot of times it doesn't really work out. But we're going to go through this. We are going to draft a Texans draft, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's do the screen sharing right now. As you can see, we're going 7 rounds. We're doing fast drafts.
You
do not
we
want
don't
to
mess around. You don't mess around with slow.
Clicking on Houston, we're entering the solo draft. Okay, so here we go. We got a lot to work with, too. We got a lot of picks.
We got to keep in mind, people are just listening, so we'll help them out.
We got 4 in the top 95. So Tampa Bay's offering a second, a third, and a second next year. No.
Nah. We don't want to take that.
Jets, 42, a second, a third, and a fourth. No thanks.
No.
I don't like that from the Patriots.
The Patriots are giving a early second
and a
early third and a sixth next year. No, we're gonna stick it. We're gonna. You know what? We're gonna stick at 25 for now and look at the names that we've got on the board at this point.
All right, at the tip top, ranking wise, you got Nick Emenwari, who is a safety you really, really like. You've texted me offline about him.
Yep.
You've said some good things. He's one of the best safeties in the draft, maybe the best safety in the draft in your eyes. And you could add to this.
Add him right here.
You could add strength to strength if you want and be happy. You got Jihad Campbell, 22nd overall. He's an Alabama linebacker. Looks like a stud. Looks like a guy who could play for the next decade and play at a very, very high level. There's our guy Simmons. There's Ibuka, the wide receiver. Luther Burden, another wide receiver. All the way down to number 33, Gray Zabel, North Dakota State. Really, really impressive offensive lineman. Right below him, Kenneth Grant. Okay, there's lots of options here, John.
Yep.
Where do you go?
Okay, I'm going to rip through these really, really fast. Eminwari, I would say no just because you brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Even though I love Eminwari, I just don't think you can do it. Jihad Campbell, I love, is kind of a 3-down linebacker that can rush on 3rd down, play 1st and 2nd down as a stack backer. Simmons, we talked about. Ibuka, we've talked a lot about. I love Ibuka. This is who I put in my mock draft. Mark thinks he did it, but I was going to pick Ibuka anyways. Luther Burden, I think, is tremendous. Let's circle him for a second. Tyleik Williams, defensive line. Now, between Tyleik Williams, Walter Nolan, and Kenneth Grant, who's right there beyond Gray Zabel, you got 3 tremendous options.
Yeah.
But you've really bolstered your defensive line, and I think you can get defensive line later in the draft. I think defensive line number 8 is way better than interior offensive lineman number 8. If that makes sense. So I think at this point, I've kind of got circled number 33 on PFN's board, and that's Gray Zabel. I think Zabel, with the ability to play all 3 positions, you get him here and you figure it out, and you say maybe day one, look, you're going to be our guard.
Okay.
You're going to play guard, and that's what you're going to do. And then when there's time, we can cross-train you at center, and then if we need you at tackle, maybe you want him at tackle. He's a really good athlete, tremendous player. Held his own at the Senior Bowl at guard after really not playing a whole lot of it at North Dakota State. Held up against the best competition.
You wrote
there.
extensively about his Senior Bowl exploits and his heroic.
Yeah, I was very, very
against
impressive.
the best in college.
And the thing about it is, with FCS guys, I focus more on the Senior Bowl than really what's during the season. Like, I was watching Charles Grant from William & Mary today, actually, and I like him. But you watch the players he's going against, and you're like, I don't know. So you watch Gray Zabel against Colorado, and you're like, damn, that's pretty good. Then you watch him with the Senior Bowl, where he's taking on the best of the best. This is where I would take Gray Zabel.
Okay.
I think that would be the way to go.
So you think he's a surefire starter, comes on in and
I think so,
and flourishes?
I think so.
Because there's questions about, well, A, is Simmons going to be healthy?
Yeah.
B, do you want to have 3 tackles in Simmons, Titus Howard, and Blake Fisher,
right,
and make one of them push inside the guard? So this does make sense.
I think Zabel,
get a surefire.
That's right.
It's not the sexiest, but it makes you better. Let's go with it. All right.
I think I'm going Zabel.
I'm cool with Gray Zabel as well. All right. So we're moving on to round 2. And as a reminder, you can click on my picks. You got 58, 79, 89, 166, and then there's a big jump to 236 and 241. Right. So Miami's offering you, hey, you want to move back 40 spots, but you pick up a second next year. I don't know. That seems like a lot.
Well, let's look at what's on the board here for a second.
And then move back 14 to the Bears, and you give away a 7th next year, and you get back a 3rd.
I don't like that. But let's look at who's on the board before we make a decision here.
You have Walter Nolan, who's ranked 31st. He's pretty good. And then I haven't talked with you much about the running backs, but Omarion Hampton's there.
Stud.
Further down the line, Quinshawn Judkins is there.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson, who he's the one who has leaped out the most to me, running back wise. Just stare, casually. I'm a casual watching. I've texted you about him.
Yeah.
Like, wow. But Walter Nolan and Omarion Hampton there seem like really good value at 58.
I have given running back a lot of thought during this thing, and these 3 are guys that pop up a lot. Omarion Hampton, my comp for him is Joe Mixon.
Ooh, I like that.
And so would I want another Joe Mixon?
Sure.
A younger Joe Mixon?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd be excited about that. Quinshawn Judkins is kind of a mix of Travion Henderson and Omarion Hampton. But I think the higher upside, to be honest with you, and just kind of envisioning what this offense might be, I think Travion Henderson is one hell of a player. He's a great pass protector. And, that was the other one. I did Travion Henderson scouting report over at footballtakeover.com, so if you want to check that out, please do. One of the things I realized about Travion Henderson, he was asked about a particular it was asked about his screen touchdown against Texas. And I thought it was really interesting. He was about a 90-second discussion, and he mentioned he had messed something up, and then he got kind of mad about it because there was something that went on. And then he said, I went over to the sideline, I collected myself, I prayed on it, I went back in the game, and then I made this play. And I was like, faith is a big, big thing for Travion Henderson, which for some people, great, not whatever. I just think he's very grounded in the way that he thinks about things. I just feel like this running back class is so good that I can maybe go beyond that. And this is where the double dip of offensive linemen I have to consider. Marcus Embo from Purdue, I didn't love at the Senior Bowl. And really, that's the guy that I would look at. The only other guy I would look at here, and I think he's off the board, is Donovan Jackson. But he's off the board at this point. So then I look at defensive line. Walter Nolan at number 58 is a freaking steal.
Let's do that then.
Let's do it. I think Walter Nolan at 58 is a steal. There's some reasons he's on the board at 58.
Let's do it.
Yeah, he's a freakazoid. He can disappear at times, but getting him at 58, I think, is a great pick. So I like that Walter Nolan pick.
All right, so we've gone beefy with Zabel on the O-line, Nolan on the D-line. I don't like this offer from the Cardinals, so we're going to – I mean, do you like it?
No.
115.
Cardinals are offering 115, 152 and a third. No, I don't like it.
All right, you said double dip. Emory Jones, offensive tackle, LSU. That's your highest-rated guy.
Wrong offensive lineman.
Okay. Alfred Collins, defensive tackle from Texas.
Well, we just took Walter Nolan, who's kind of Alfred Collins. They're very, very similar skill set.
Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver from Miami.
I'm only saying no because who's next?
Okay. Who's next is Jared Wilson from Georgia. He's a center. Now, I have seen a few different people that I really, really respect over the last month or two say you can get Wilson, Ratledge, or who's the third from Georgia, the interior guy?
Dylan Fairchild.
Or Dylan Fairchild. You can plug them in, and you will never have to worry for a while.
Yep.
You'll have starters there. That put off like sirens and warning signals.
Okay, well, I'm gonna throw one more siren at you.
Okay.
And hopefully you respect the guy that you're doing this podcast with.
Yeah.
Because my name is John Harris.
Yeah.
You know, football analyst, sideline reporter for the Houston Texans.
And footballtakeover.com.
Hopefully you've done a lot of draft, footballtakeover.com. Jared Wilson is the best center that I have studied in a long time.
That's all you got to say. Let's take him. That's all you got to say.
I love him.
Okay.
I love him. There have been a lot of Georgia centers talked about the last few years.
Ben Jones is a great Georgia center.
Ben Jones is really, really
I wish
good.
the Texans had never let him leave.
But Jared Wilson, he can play. He will hold his own at center. He will hold his own against zero techniques. He will hold his own against big guys. Plays with a big, strong base, can move, good in the zone, but good in power game. I think Jared Wilson is by far the best center I've studied in a while.
All right, now we're back up at 89.
Okay.
And Emory Jones is still there at 70, but we're not wild. Jack Besh, excuse me. Nice Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Nice career at TCU.
Yep.
You got Shamar Turner, the defensive tackle. Lathan Ransom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I know there's a couple of tight ends that you've had your eye on, namely Elijah Arroyo from Miami, but he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
And
I'm not surprised.
There's no Gunnar Helm from Texas either, but you do have Terrence Ferguson of Oregon available.
Yep.
What are you seeing here? What are you thinking? Jack Sawyer, do you have edge?
I have my eyes. Well, you scroll down just a little bit. I don't know that we can get in 166, but if we wanted to go one more offensive lineman, Anthony Belton from NC State, I think transitions into guard is going to be a hammer. I mean, I think he's going to end up being a hammer. But that's one guy I would go with on the offensive line. I would think about Emory Jones, too. I think he's going to move into guard. I should like him better at guard. I think he can be very feisty at guard. I thought tackle maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the speed, but did a really good job at LSU opposite Will Campbell. Shamar Turner is a guy to think about, but Shamar's 290 pounds, and we've got a lot of light, quick guys on the defensive line already. Lathan Ransom is a teammate of Bijan Robinson in high school. They're in Tucson, Arizona. I love him as a player, but I think you kind of have him at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson right now.
Okay.
So, to me, what I don't know that you have is Jack Besh. I think Jack Besh is the swarmiest of the swarmy. I think one of my favorite moment of the Senior Bowl was they ran toss crack, and Jack Besh was in the Nico Collins alignment, and that means you got the down block on the defensive end. And Jack Besh hit R.J. Oben from Notre Dame and then stayed on the block to a point where R.J. Oben is basically like banging on the back of him, like, get him off me. Besh can run. He's going to be in 4.5 range. Kind of got some build-up speed. Great hands. Tough. Mentally tough. Unfortunately lost his brother, Tiger Besh, in the tragedy in New Orleans this past New Year's Eve. And the Senior Bowl is basically dedicated to him, and he rose up and just was incredible. And I think he had a great career. I think as a freshman at LSU, he dominated games at times. The Alabama game and in 2021, I think it was. I think it's 2021. He was tremendous. He was absolutely tremendous. I would take Jack Besh here. I think he would fit with what you have at your receiver room. And, oh, by the way, worst case, Jack Besh is a core 4 special teamer that you're getting at the bottom of the 3rd round.
All right. That's the pick. Now you got to wait a little bit. We're
We
going
do.
to 166. So
But we put it on turbo speed, so we're okay. We'll get there
Exactly.
soon enough.
Exactly. And I love that Nick Caserio has maneuvered and added that extra pick in the top 90.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're going to see the Texans pick at 25, 58, 79, and 89 ultimately. I think
That's correct.
I think those are going to move around a lot. I can see all four of those being different spots
Mm-hmm.
in each of those same rounds, but just
That's
different
right.
spots.
Yes.
So here we are, 166. Riley Mills, defensive tackle, is the highest.
Poor man's J.J. Watt.
Poor man's J.J. Watt.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You see him, you'll know.
Okay. You also have Elijah Roberts, Scoponies, SMU, proud alum, class of 2000. Simeon Barrow.
Yep.
Rashard Smith, SMU,
Okay.
running
Right
back.
there. You've highlighted it right there.
But you got Dylan Sampson.
Well, those are the two.
Right below.
Those are the two right there.
Okay.
And if you look at what we've done, you can see that on the left of the screen. We went offensive line, Gray Zabel. We went defensive line, Walter Nolan. We went offensive line, Jared Wilson, and we got a receiver, Jack Besh. I feel like there is just another level of weapon that we lack offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And the question becomes, do we want Rashard Smith, who you actually could play in the slot if you needed to?
He's
He's that good as a
at
receiver.
Miami, yeah, before.
Tremendous player, but that explosive speed, wow. And Dylan Sampson is more a true running back, but the same thing. Explosive abilities. Like, I have Dylan Sampson way higher than whatever this is at 168.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Dylan Sampson. So I'm going to leave it up to you to pick one of those two, because I think those are the two best. But before we do that, let's scroll down. Let's scroll down just to see who's at one. If there's anybody else that catches our eye.
We've taken Dylan Sampson before, and
I feel like I'm stealing when I do that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be there at this spot.
And that's one of the reasons why I don't take him a lot, because I don't think. Now, I think Brashard is a little higher than the number they've given as well.
Right. But I'm saying, for the sake of this, let's just do it. I mean, SEC Offensive Player of the Year. You mentioned the explosiveness.
Yep.
You could
always
add in competition in the running back room.
Let's go Dylan Sampson.
I want to go with Dylan Sampson. No offense, Rashard Smith, but
he understands
playing in the SEC and doing that.
Mock draft simulator's just business, bro.
Sampson.
All
now
right.
you're waiting until the 7th round. You got a couple picks back there. I don't think those picks are going to be there when Nick and the Texans are picking, but that's what we'll do just to.
I mean, the thing about it is to consider they do have to make a decent number of picks or have undrafted free agents, because I mean, the roster, they had 25 free agents going in. They didn't bring them all back. So
okay, now the names we've looked at before, we drafted Cody Simon, the linebacker from Ohio State, who was very productive on defense, but you also think would be
bless you.
You also think would be a killer on special teams. And I like the name above him in Nazir Stackhouse.
Yep.
He's
a house.
More of a trash can full of rocks type of. You want to try and double dip and see if we get those two right there? If you had to choose, you would go with Simon first, right?
I'll tell you the tight end I like in that group is Thomas Fidone from Nebraska.
Do? Okay.
But
no, I'm fine with that. You do need it.
I'll tell you what. Go up to offense and go to tight ends. I want to see who's there at tight end, because there's one tight end that I'm looking for. I think he's gone. And Jackson Hawes would be the tight end from Georgia Tech.
You like him, huh?
I just like him as a Y inline blocker.
Okay.
Good soft hands, good athlete. Played at Yale, transferred to Georgia Tech, but he's just really a rock solid blocker. I think that would be nice. Willie Lampkin, I know it says guard center. He's a 5'10", 275-pound center. I think you could take him and turn it into a Patrick Ricard kind of player. Use him at fullback in a sense. Jamari Harris, that dude, what's that say, Iowa?
Yep.
No, that's the wrong guy. I'm thinking of the guy from Cal. I'm thinking of Marcus Harris from all the Harrises. Get confused. I think Stackhouse is probably the way to go here to bolster that. It just gives us an athletic big up front that I would like to add. So let's do that, and then we'll see what we got left.
Simon's still available.
Simon is still there.
Want to do it?
Simon says Cody Simon, special teams, linebacker help. I like it.
There you go. Okay, so the Texans went for some help in the trenches. Gray Zabel, Walter Nolan on the defensive side, who you called a steal, a freaking steal. Jared Wilson, probably going to go a little higher.
Yeah, I think
Offensive center from Georgia. Jack Besh, receiver. Dylan Sampson, definitely going higher, but you got him, running back. And then another trash can full of rocks who's athletic, and Cody Simon there at the end. I like this mock draft.
Yeah, we did well. We didn't trade once, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
That won't be Nick Caserio, but I feel like we targeted a bunch of needs, but got best player available in a lot of those situations. So good job, Drew. We did a good job. We'd feel good about that draft on Sunday.
We will do one more of these before the actual thing goes
one
down,
more at least.
and it's going to be a lot of fun. But I had fun doing this. I hope you had fun watching it, or listening, Probably better to watch than listen.
That's okay.
Not the best, audio exercise, but nevertheless. And I had fun being with you, John. It's always good to do this.
Thank you, Drew.
We will be back next week because, from now till next week, there's going to be a lot of stuff that changes, I bet, again. Yeah. And I can't wait to do it and talk about it and discuss it with you. But good things happening. Derek Stingley locked up. We did a mock draft simulator. And this has been In the Lab, presented by Xfinity. So long.